So our next presenters then are online. Coral, I see you've joined on. Thank you very much. And I see Amanda. This panel is going to talk about getting the vote out, that need to really get people to the polling stations. And we have two fantastic presenters that are going to help us to think that through. Coral, many of you will know, has served as a council member in Comox. She's a Comox citizen, very involved with her own community and others. She's been working extensively in eligibility and enrollment and many other things as a private consultant and also within her own nation. Coral, as I mentioned earlier, was part of the support team together with Ashley and Kim in putting together our eligibility and enrollment guides and our ratification guides. So she's thought this through deeply. I'm always so impressed, Coral, with your ability to make complex issues feel really organized and simple. So looking forward to your presentation today. Thank you so much for joining us. And our second presenter today will be Amanda van Baarsen, who is doing some work with Kitsilas right now. She is a campaign consultant, and we thought it would be worthwhile to hear a little bit of how campaigns in general work through political parties. When Amanda comes up, I'll let her give some more of her own background, but she's very experienced in that kind of campaign and the door knocking and things that go on. So she's agreed to come and present to us as well. So welcome to both of you. And the coin flip says Coral is going first. So over to you, Coral.
Gayla Kessler, thank you so much, Angela. Is everyone able to see that? Great. Good afternoon, everyone. Uh, I was thinking this morning and the last couple of days just how excited I am and honored to have been asked to present today and to share a forum with such an incredible group of folks. I was looking at the bios for today, and we really do have quite a wealth of knowledge and expertise in all things ratification from various people. So it's a really exciting opportunity to be able to be a part of this forum and to share my experience. And so today, my presentation will cover my experience in the various roles that I've worn with Comox over the past 4 years. So in terms of treaty making, I'm still very new, I would say, to this work. But I've played various roles over the last 4 years. And so I've been both a staff person in a leadership role as well as a consultant. And my presentation will focus on connecting the enrollment and ratification work and how that relates to getting the vote out. And so I'll start with just a brief introduction. So Gaelic Hestauchla, Nugwa Coral Mackay. First and foremost, I'm a proud Comox member. My name is Coral Mackay. I'm Comox and Scottish on my late mother's side and Italian on my late father's side. I have a degree in Indigenous Studies and Public Administration from the University of Victoria and have experience with both eligibility and enrollment as well as ratification. I recently had the opportunity to participate at a policy retreat with Comox in our sister nations with a fellow named Ian Caplet, who, like me, is a policy nerd, but he's reframed the idea that we love policy into a love for our people and for doing things in a good way, which I really loved. And so I'm adopting that into my introductions and my love for policy and governance and working for and with our people. So that is who I am, and it's something that is deeply important to me in carrying out this work. So in terms of my experience in 2021, I joined the Comox Treaty team as the eligibility and enrollment coordinator, and I was promoted into a project management role pretty quickly. So I was the first KFN staff person on the treaty team and was responsible for building out our enrollment process as well as establishing our treaty office. So my role was very much boots on the ground. Often it was me working in our office alone. And since 2021, we've really grown and our team has really grown. And so it's been really cool to be a part of that process. In 2023, I was elected to council, and for the next 2 years while I served, I shifted from a doer to a decision maker, which was a great experience, but I am a doer at heart, and I've recently rejoined the team as a consultant to provide technical support as we near ratification in, I believe we're 17 short days away, so very close. Some of my clients include Comox, the Timucua Treaty Association, recently Kitsless, and the BC Treaty Commission. And I'm very excited to be presenting today. So when I was building out this presentation, and this comes from very recent experience, having rejoined the team and some of the work that I've been doing with Comox. And I cannot emphasize enough how important alignment is as you near ratification. So one of the key challenges that I've come across in this work is ensuring that the enrollment and ratification rules and procedures, as well as the committees, not only speak to one another, but that they are aligned with the treaty chapter language. So this can be a challenge, especially when you are tasked with interpreting legalese or legalistic language, which the treaty chapter language is, and then translating that into clear and actionable steps and processes. So it really is this kind of formal process, and it like it as a staff person, also as a consultant, I'll be the first to admit I do not have a legal background. So taking that language and building that into procedures, it has to be aligned, but definitely creates some challenges. And it is critical work as alignment helps prevent confusion. It helps to set expectations, and it helps empower your committees and the teams to carry out their responsibilities, which is so integral, especially when we're thinking about getting the vote out. So this does have a positive impact on ratification as it helps to build trust. It helps streamline the experience for your team members on the ground and helps to enhance or increase participation. So setting clear expectations early in the process can help to prevent confusion later on, especially when things get busy, like you're nearing ratification. This is important as for your folks on the ground, as well as your members or your citizens. They need to know what is required and expected of them. So there is a lot of knowledge and expertise at each of your tables, including your legal support, your negotiators, your comms team, and the parties themselves, who can provide context as to why language in the treaty was drafted a certain way and may have valuable insight into how that translates into your procedures. So this can help empower committees by giving them the tools and the knowledge to carry out their responsibilities. And this it helps to get the vote out, as once everyone understands their role, engagement and participation naturally increase. So the more confident that your members or your citizens are in the team and the ratification process, the less time you spend having to explain things or even on revisions, and more time spent with your members and citizens. So it's really important to set clear expectations early on, and especially as you near ratification. Some strategic considerations that can help support getting the vote out include strategically planning how you will spend your time, energy, and resources. And I'm sure Ashley Wright mentioned this morning, but work planning is an incredibly important part of this process, as well as providing clear, consistent, and concise language and messaging to your team. Another thing to consider is proactive engagement. So responding to questions early and often can help promote transparency, open communication, and trust in the process. Another piece here is community perception. So this is something you will definitely want to consider and something that Comox has been experiencing as we move closer to ratification. So for some folks, there is a lot of questions or even apprehension around enrollment and ratification. I've said this before. I think I said this at the enrollment forum with BCTC was this process can feel very colonial and bureaucratic. So it is important to be mindful that there are a lot of emotions that are associated with treaty and the work that we do, and to address concerns earnestly, openly, with empathy and compassion, and to address them head on. And the last piece here would be something to consider is to share information early on with BC and Canada to help gain insight and feedback on your rules, procedures, and forms. So as much as these committees, the Enrollment Committee and the Ratification Committee, are independent in their decision making, there is a great deal of support that the parties can and will provide throughout this process as you near ratification. So some communication strategies to consider to help support getting the vote out include providing clear and consistent messaging to avoid confusion or the spread of misinformation. It seems that as you near ratification, misinformation seems to spread a little bit more rapidly, so it's really important to stay on top of that. Another piece here is ensuring that there are multiple points of engagement. So I just caught the tail end of what Angela was mentioning around, around home visits and like community meetings, one-on-ones, and providing different methods of communication. So we found that some folks may want to speak only in person, whereas others are more comfortable online or over the phone. You might even have some folks who are only comfortable communicating by email. So really it's about meeting your members or citizens where they're at and providing as many options to communicate as possible. And again, I cannot emphasize enough the importance of addressing concerns early and as often as possible. And you'll likely receive the same concerns throughout this process, or an increase in concerns the closer you get to ratification. An example of this for Comox was early on in 2021, when I joined the team, we provided a presentation on our enrollment and eligibility criteria. And no one had any questions about the criteria. It was a non-issue. And then as soon as we started enrolling folks this past year, you started having more questions about the criteria. Well, what does that mean? And what does that mean for our community into the future? And so addressing those concerns early and often is really important. And you can also build them into key messaging as well. So this, I mean, I'm really big on data. It comes with being a policy nerd or lover of doing things in a good way. So tracking data in the vote, as you near ratification, data management becomes an incredibly important tool. So something that we've done at Comox is we've compared our list of eligible voters to those who have already enrolled for targeted outreach. And targeted outreach really looks like us cold calling our community members, reaching out to them on, on Facebook, through Facebook Messenger, via text, like really any opportunity or any ability that we can to communicate with those folks. We're doing the best, making best efforts to make contact with them. And something to think about when you are communicating out to your members or citizens is that it is so important to reiterate that voting is a right. That it is also an important step in self-governance, regardless of how someone chooses to vote. And so that has been a messaging that we have provided time and time again at Comox is we want folks to enroll. We want you to exercise your right to participate in such an important decision for our nation. And so that has become one of our key messages. And so I see I'm nearing my time, which is good timing. So in terms of some key takeaways, if there's one thing to take back to your team from this presentation, I hope that it would be that process alignment equals success. It will save you a lot of time, energy, and resources to do things in a good way right from the start as best as you can, acknowledging that there may be minor revisions as your chapter language changes or as you move through this process, or if you're like Comox and you pre-draft your procedures. And so yeah, it really will save you time, energy, and resources as you're nearing ratification, as you will need your energy because things do get incredibly busy the closer you get to ratification. Really is like all hands on deck. Everyone is just on the ground running, doing everything within their power to move this work forward. And so again, alignment is so important. Rely on your teams, rely on the expertise of your legal counsel, of your treaty partners, of the modern treaty nations. There's just so much value in really relying on the expertise of the folks that have been along on this journey with you. Another piece here is that clear expectations lead to better engagement from and for everyone. There's a lot of questions that go back and forth between the teams and a lot of information that needs to be shared between them. So it's really important as you near ratification that everyone understands what is expected of them and what their role and their responsibilities are. Another takeaway would be strategic and intentional outreach helps drive enrollment and voter turnout. I know my co-panelist Amanda will be speaking more to this, but that one-on-one engagement is so important. And sometimes it just takes calling and reminding someone, that the vote is coming up and we hope you make it out, or we hope we see you there. And so that outreach is so important. Another piece is communication helps to build confidence and trust in the process. So as you near ratification, mistruths or apprehension may be rising, and it's just so important to continue that communication with your members and your citizens and really walk them through this process. And then the last piece that I wanted to share was just, again, the importance of teamwork in the ratification process. Teamwork is the dream work, and it is what will take you through ratification. And so, I really appreciate the opportunity to share my insight and my experience with you today. I was looking through, we have quite a few folks who've attended, so I really appreciate you taking your time and your patience today to be with us and for your attention. Gaila Kessler.
Thank you so much, Coral. Again, just such a concise presentation and very clear messages. I think we're starting to hear those messages over and over and over, and I think we're really getting to a place where there's a great understanding of what works, and that this continued sharing of that knowledge and information and experience is just so valuable. So thank you again. And just a reminder to the group again that, looking back at the enrollment and eligibility forum that was held a few months back, again, you'll hear some other messages, encourage you to go back there, and also to the E&E guide and the ratification guide, which also share some of this information that Coral has shared here as well. So Coral, thanks for always showing up for us. Always appreciate it and appreciate your very organized presentations and informative. Amanda, it's been nice to meet you in the last month or so. I briefly introduced you, and I'll turn it over to you to reintroduce yourself. I know that you're very experienced in campaigns and everything that happens around them, and maybe new to some of the First Nations experience around it. So I hope you've had enjoyed some new insights into our world during this forum, and welcome you here today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I want to start by acknowledging that I'm dialing in from the territory of the Lekwungen speaking people, the Songhees and Esquimalt nations. And also thank Angela and Celeste for inviting me to be a part of this. I feel really honored to be here. I haven't been able to sit through the totality of today, but the presentations I have heard were really great. And the one thing that I've taken away more than anything is that there are so many similarities between the work that we're doing with treaty ratification as there are in electoral campaigns. And so some of the pieces that I'm going to touch on today relate very specifically to the topic of one-on-one engagement and actually how to bring out the vote. So this session, I'll start by sharing my screen. Okay. So I'll just start by saying the perspective that I bring is one from electoral campaigns. I've worked for over 20 years, starting in 2003, on a bunch of different kinds of campaigns that all shared very similar goals. So either issue-based campaigns, we want to make sure that this legislation passes or is introduced. We want to elect this candidate either to be the person who's standing for election as a representative of the party in the next provincial, municipal, or federal, or we want to elect this candidate as the leader of a party, or we want to elect this candidate as the representative in office municipally, provincially, or federally for a specific area. All of them focus on two main areas. One is voter contact, and the other is get out the vote. I am going to focus my presentation primarily on get out the vote, just to fit it in with the agenda. And what I mean by that is ensuring that people who want to vote actually do make it out there. One of the things that I came into when I was invited to this work with the Kitselis was very practical limitations that we were able to solve. So the first being access to data. People have talked about that so many times in little ways throughout the conversations that I've been able to listen to today. And the piece that I think makes the difference, that makes or break whether we're going to have an effective campaign to get out the vote, is how easy that database is to use. And the importance of communication and ensuring that everybody understands their roles among the team members who are working on those campaigns. So what I would encourage is for those of you who are working on this and still have this ability or will be working on this in the future and are coming back to this presentation, is make sure that the database becomes your means of communication. Put everything in there. So when you're having conversations with people, when you're getting information, that everybody knows that information because that is going to be key to success. In terms of getting out the vote, when you're recording this information into the database, the most effective way to find out more about somebody, the most effective way to motivate them to actually show up at the polls is a conversation. It is one-on-one engagement. It is the thing that is the most key in any kind of campaign and has been especially true in my experience working with the Kitselis to date, and also in what I'm hearing from a lot of the presentations that have been coming out today. The nature of a conversation is motivating. In terms of who should be doing those conversations and what you should say when you're trying to motivate engagement, when you're trying to motivate people to take an action, to get out to the polls, the most effective is going to be the people who they trust the most. So if you're talking to anybody, if you're talking to a sibling, if you're talking to a neighbor, if you're talking to a stranger, you are going to be persuasive in the conversation that you are having if that person trusts you. So what that means is in practice is that if you have the time and the capacity and you're able to map out with all of the members that you have that have the potential to vote, who knows them best, who trusts them best. If you have the capacity and the time to be able to map that out in advance, that is going to be the most effective way to have these conversations and to engage on this topic. If you don't, there are ways to increase trust by the nature of the conversations that you're having. So the more personal that you have the conversation, the more persuasive it is. And persuasion is just another way of saying they believe you, they trust you, they believe they can answer, they can ask questions, and you'll keep those questions safe. You'll hold space for this dialogue because they trust that that's happening. So Clarissa mentioned this earlier, and I really appreciate it. I've had the benefit of working with some people on the call today. Clarissa, Evelyn, Joan, Mary Lou, and David, I think, are joining us. And anybody else who's named Daniela Alusanya still, that might be Kitsless. Sorry if I missed you. Um, I cannot speak more strongly about the power of time and safety in these conversations. So if you are able to engage in as many home visits as possible, that will be the most key in motivating turnout. If you can't, try going door to door and having conversations at somebody's doorstep because they feel more comfortable generally at their doorstep. If that doesn't work, face to face, where you can show your facial reactions and your emotions. Over Zoom works better than over the phone, where you can't see that and some stuff gets lost in translation when it's just verbal. And if that doesn't work, try email or text. I want to reference what Coral said, though, because she's absolutely correct. There are some means that work better for other people, and I will say I'm one of them who will never answer the phone and will only respond to text messages, and we'll have a conversation at the doorstep just because I find it's rude to ignore someone at the door. That said, as a rule, in general, the more in close proximity and closeness in relationships that you can manufacture when you're structuring your conversations and the one-on-one engagement, the more likely someone is to trust you, to engage in that conversation, and then to get out and vote. Now, I've said this before, and I'll back it up, not with actual studies, but just a reference to the fact that they have been done in electoral politics. There's a group called the Analyst Institute in the United States, and they actually take this from a scientific perspective and test out which methods are more effective. And they have been able to prove through a number of them that the actual dialogue is motivating to turn out. So beyond physically picking someone up and bringing them to the polls, having someone consider voting is going to be one of the most effective ways to actually make somebody take the action of voting. So when you're in these conversations, just from a practical perspective, often folks have come up and asked, well, what do you say? How do I start this? Two questions I think are key in this conversation. One, how are you feeling about treaty? It opens the door. It's open-ended. And then the second one, what is your plan to vote? And this means that you're giving people an opportunity to genuinely consider practically how this is going to work. So for Kitsalis, there's three options. You can vote online, you can vote by mail, you can vote in person. And by starting that conversation, you're beginning the process of having a member, think about, well, practically, what do I need in order to do that? And by thinking about it, they're more likely to do it. So the details in these conversations are empowering. Your team will need to know the answers to all of these questions in order to be able to pass on that assurance to the people you're talking to. like again, very practically, how many days are voting available? Where and how can the vote take place? If a vote is cast by mail, how long will the mail take to arrive? And this is a pretty big one, because if you've got members from across the country or even outside of the country, that timeline is going to be very different. And so if you're taking away a barrier for the voter, for the member, by doing that thinking in advance for them, and you're again assigning it to the database so that you're making sure your conversations with each of these people are custom, are appropriate to them, are relevant to what they need to know. You're reducing a barrier to voting. You're going to increase the likelihood that they'll actually get out and vote. So when do they need to request their ballot, if that's something they need to request? When do they need to put it back in the mail to ensure that it arrives? These are very important questions that we should know the answers to before we start engaging. And then again, if you don't track the answers, it's going to be a lot more difficult to engage when you get closer and closer and you're starting to run out of time to do this. So what I find is useful, depending on the type of database you're using, is to break the data out into groups of the answers. So your first round of engagement should be asking lots of questions, should be collecting as much information as possible, and then based on the answers to those questions, breaking it down to focus your team's capacity and time into the way that they're going to be the most effective in ensuring that people actually come out to vote. So for the purposes of this presentation, we'll group them into people who are voting online, people who are voting by mail, and people who are voting in person, although for many different campaigns, there are many different answers to that question. So for online voting, what you want to do when you're having those conversations, first you need to ensure that you have the email address on file where they're going to be receiving that information, if that's the way it's coming in. You're going to need to know that they know how to log in, that they're technically able to vote. So do they have their personal identification number? Do they have to log in with an email address? Other questions, do they have access to the internet? If it's just on their phone, are they going to be at a place where they're able to connect? Like very practical questions that will help you stay in the conversation longer, but also have the voter, the member, think about the answers to those questions. And then the next step is, well, how do you create an outreach timeline for this group of voters? So my guiding principles when I do this work is to contact people as many times as necessary, but not too many times. And it's hard sometimes to figure that out. So I've offered some practical advice on what that might be. So this is in advance. You have already checked in with them. You know how they're going to vote. So we've grouped them into categories. Everyone on this group has already had a first touch point because we know the answer to that question. We know they're going to vote online. So on the day that online voting opens, check in with them again to ensure that they have what they need to vote. Now for the kits list, there's 2 weeks of voting. So there's lots of time to do it. The first day doesn't mean the last day, but it does mean you're giving people enough notice to plan over the next 2 weeks when they're going to do it. Consider checking in again a few days prior to the end of voting to ensure they don't miss their window, because they told us that they wanted to vote in this method. And if they don't do it in the next 3 days, they're going to miss their opportunity to vote in the methods that they wanted to do it. Send an email on the last day, making sure that they have everything they need. Again, this is the last day to do it. It's repetitive, but it's not too repetitive because this is really a service to ensure that they're able to do it. Once that passes, in some cases, the Chief Electoral Officer will give you a list of who's voted. So you won't have to contact everybody again, and you'll be able to simply contact those who missed it. It would be a good idea to give folks a call and say, hey, I noticed that you weren't able to vote online. Don't worry, you still can. Here's the other way you can do it. So that's my recommendation for online. For voting by mail, this is the one where you're going to need to do a lot of mail math in advance, just to make sure that you have this. I would recommend grouping these people down even further from where they're located and how long the mail is expected to take to come back. And you want to make sure that they have the mailing address that they're going to be receiving their ballot at, that is accurate. You want to make sure, based on their location, how early they need to mail their ballot back. And again, that's the math part. Your timeline. This one starts before. So this one starts right when they say they want to vote by mail. So as soon as they say that, you should make sure that we're getting that information. So know that they know how to get their mail and when they have to have it back. So we've done that work in advance. And in the first conversation where they say I'm planning on voting by mail, you have the answers to make sure that they don't miss that window. 1 week out from the date they need to get the vote their ballot back, so the date they need to mail it on their end, reach out again to ensure that they have filled out that mail-in ballot and that they are going to make that date. On the last day to get their ballot in the mail, send out an email just to that group saying, hey, this is your last day. Don't forget to go to the mailbox. And then the day after, again, if there's another opportunity to vote, if they miss that window, make sure that they understand what that opportunity is. In person, people who are voting in person need to know where the location is, for how long voting is open, and it's a really good tool to ask them if they have a plan for how to get there and back. And you'll be surprised, I certainly am, whenever I come across this in the variety of campaigns, how many people say, no, I'm voting on election day. I'm like, oh, great. Do you know what time you'll get there? I'm like, oh, actually, my wife is working all day. I don't think I'm going to be able to get there at all. Hey, no problem. Do you need a ride? And then we're getting into the meat of actually planning out what time we can pick them up and get there. But if we hadn't had that conversation and this voter realized that their wife was going to be gone all day with the car, they might not vote at all. So it's really important to try and have these conversations when you can. So again, the outreach timeline, as soon as they confirm that they want to vote in person, make sure they know these details and ask them if they have someone that can help them get there. The day before the vote, this is not necessarily your outreach to them, but this is a day that you want to get your team back together, everybody who's going to be doing that one-on-one engagement on voting day, to ensure you've broken up the list of people who need to vote still. And this is everyone who wasn't able to vote by mail, everyone who wasn't able to vote online, and everyone who said they wanted to vote the day of. And map it out. Give everybody a little set of turf and say, it's our job now to just go and reach out to those people on election day. And that could be by phone, that could be on foot, and it really depends on your capacity. But on voting day, this is the last possible day to vote, and it should involve as many team members as possible. The work that I've done in other campaigns, just by virtue of the number of people, the amount of time, and the amount of money that is consistently spent just on one-on-one engagement, vastly exceeds almost every other line item. No, not almost. Vastly exceeds every other line item in every campaign budget, because this is the most effective way to ensure that that vote happens, to ensure that you get those ballots in the box. And the details are empowering here. So this is fairly dry. People don't like to think about this. Again, it's lots of date math, but it's extremely important to know the answers to these things. So this is information that I presented a couple of weeks ago to Kitsil's staff, just trying to map out the practical dates that folks would need to know. And a lot of it, or some of it may have changed as the Chief Electoral Officer determines some things. So don't hold me to it, but use it as a guide. So if the in-person vote is on April 10th, which it is, and electronic voting opens March 27th, and the first voting information packages are sent out on March 10th, we know that we can work backwards from March 10th to ensure that we have all the information to make sure that the people who are getting those voting information packages are on the list and have accurate contact information, so they do so. And it's important because some of the details that were variable in my earlier slides are clear in this vote. So for the kits list, there's going to be a voter information package that contains the PIN number, a mail-in ballot, information on how to vote in person, and copies of all the documents being voted on. So it is ideal if all of those packages go out to all of the people who have indicated that they are going to vote and that they're all enrolled in advance of that. If not, it's not the end of the world, but it would be ideal. And it's good to start from a place where we've got an attainable goal with enough time to reach it. So what does that mean in practice? Well, if the voting information packages are going to be sent out on March 10th and your eligibility and enrollment committee meetings have set times where those enrollment forms are ratified, then you actually want to work back from the date that it's going to be ratified right before the date that the information packages get sent out. So in this case, the Eligibility and Enrollment Committee meeting is meeting on the 27th, and again on the 13th and the 27th in advance of the vote, but the 27th will be the one before March 10th, which means that everybody who's enrolled before February 27th, and it says 25 days up here because I didn't edit it, but it's 7 days. That means that all of those people on that list are going to get that first batch of voting information packages. And that's useful to know in your own database because it's going to help guide your conversations for everybody else. And it'll help guide the conversations for those people. So what does that mean? If you have this many days left until April 10th, practically, again, in the spirit of making sure that everybody feels empowered with the details and the dates to plan, what you want to ensure is that you're using your time as effectively as possible. So if you've got 7 days left before the 27th to get everybody on the list to get the first batch of voting packages, you want to make sure that your energy is focused primarily on enrollment. That doesn't mean don't do anything else. The home visits and scheduling those home visits and having those conversations are extremely important to make sure that the people who are enrolled know what they're voting on, feel like they can, feel like they've been heard. But if you want to focus your energy, try and spend as much time as possible on making sure that everybody you haven't talked to one time that has expressed an interest or that you know might want to vote is enrolled and has the ability to do so. 28 days after that is the time where you really want to be focusing on the people who are enrolled because those are the people who are going to be voting and they will be able to vote in 28 days. Does that mean, stop enrollment? No, but it does mean really try to reach out to those folks and make sure that they have the information that they need. Make sure you've asked those questions specifically about how they plan to vote because that information is going to make or break in a lot of cases whether people do vote. The practical application of the question, the answers, are you going to vote online? Are you going to vote in person? Are you going to vote by mail? Those will matter, especially if somebody who does intend to vote thought they were going to vote by mail and doesn't know those deadlines because we hadn't had an opportunity to ask. So my recommendation, based on my experience, would be to focus on moving towards that conversation in that period. And then once voting opens, because of the nature of the numbers in this case, if you have everybody enrolled and less than 50% actually show up to vote, then it's problematic. You need at least 50% plus one of the people who are enrolled to vote in order to make sure that it actually has a chance of passing, regardless of how the vote turns out. So if you've been focusing entirely on enrollment without the get out the vote, you're setting yourself up for a very disappointing result that there is a way to feel a bit more in control of just through the power of conversations. So I'll stop there. And I apologize if that presentation was weirdly structured.
It was not weirdly structured, Amanda, and a huge amount of detail that I think is necessary and really eye-opening in terms of the person power that needs to go into making sure that the vote gets out and that all that hard work in negotiating and communicating actually ends up with a good result. So thank you very much for sharing that. And I hope, Amanda and Coral, that you'd be willing to share your presentations with the group as well. You've got some hugely valuable
Absolutely.
information.
I'll
Great.
change 28 to 7.
Yeah.
Sorry, understand.
So Siri didn't understand, sorry. So thank you very much. That's sort of taken us to break time on the agenda, so we don't have some time for questions. But again, the information that both of you have provided was such great detail. The amount of work that needs to get done, the tracking of information, the tracking of people, making sure you're doing the follow-up, all so critical in terms of making sure that all the hard work that's gone in so far is used in a good way and takes you to a positive vote at the end of the day. So thank you both very much for your presentations and for agreeing to come and present today. We really appreciated it.